Hey everybody, I am Stacy. I'm the owner and artist of New Creations by Stacy. I hope everybody had a very, very Merry Christmas. I don't even know how the time came and went so quickly. I did customs this month and I was just so much busier than usual. But anyway, you guys, as you're popping on, just say hey, where you're watching from. I want to warn you tonight, I have actually been up since 3 o'clock this morning and I drove to Indiana and back. I'm actually in Alabama. So we're going to pray nothing horrible happens during this live. I also am watching a very talkative little doggy here, so hopefully he's going to be quiet. I did try to bribe him with a little treat before I went on. But we'll go ahead and get started. I see some people popping on, so that's good. I'm just going to go ahead and try to pull up the comments here. And as I'm doing that, I just want to let you guys know in the description, I do have a full product list of everything we're going to be using tonight, as well as I have a link to my page if you like and follow me, as well as share this video. We're going to be working with Transfers Wax, Dixie Dirt tonight, as well as some chippy paint finish. So like I said, I have everything listed there. I also have my affiliate link, so you can find your local retailer through there, or you can also order any of the products through there as well. And we just appreciate the support. Hey, Wanda. So I'm not pulling up comments over here yet, but we're just going to go ahead and get started. I actually want to get through quite a bit on this live. So I'm going to try to keep up with the comments, but if I do miss anything, I will go back after the live and answer any questions. We should also have Dixie Belle on with us tonight to help answer any questions that you have too. And, you know, if you want to know anything, it doesn't have to pertain to what we're doing tonight. And any questions that you have, I'm happy to help in any way. Oh, hey, I see somebody. Oh, I don't have my glasses on. Hey, Leona. It was pretty good. How about you guys? Did anybody do anything really fun on Christmas or really different? This was my granddaughter, my first granddaughter. It wasn't her first Christmas, but it was her first Christmas where she could open presents. So it was really fun. And she had the cutest little Grinch pajamas. Anyway, so let me go ahead and pop you guys down so you can really see the project that we're going to be working on. And I want to make sure you have a good view. So because I made that trip today, I wanted to do something simple. And this is, let me adjust this a little bit. This is actually one of my favorite small projects to do. It's just making some wall decor out of these old windows. This works great for picture frames too. You can paint the frame and then put one of the transfers inside. So I've got the transfer laid out here. I just wanted to kind of get my design down. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up a few sections because we're going to start off by creating this chippy, kind of this chippy painted distressed finish here. So we're going to do that by using some sea spray. Oh, let me see, the glare was kind of on there. It's a texture additive. And then we're also going to be, for the first coat, because we're creating a layered look, we're going to be using Driftwood, which is a nice gray, as well as Savannah Mist, which is kind of a gray blue. And I'm going to go ahead and just mix this up right quick on here. So with the sea spray, give me just a sec. This is our Savannah Mist. I'm only mixing up what I think I'm going to be using. So not a whole lot there. I just got everything done on this side. I've just got these two panes over here to paint with you guys. And I really want to get to the transfer and mostly focus on the transfer. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and kind of speed through this if I can get the paint out. And I'd rather not put it all over my window. I think I probably needed to clean out this. There we go. That should be enough. We've just got a small section. So with the sea spray, it has a little scoop in it. Oh, hey, from Australia. Oh, yes, it's morning for you guys there. I've had 2 cups of coffee also since I've been back and right before the live, since I've been up since 3. And I'm a little wired. So it comes with a little scoop, and 2 of these scoops will mix into 8 ounces of paint. So I'm just going to take a little bit out here. I don't measure it. Ideally, it should be like a pudding consistency. But for what I'm doing right here, I'm just going to throw a little bit in. I want mine really pretty thick. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir it up. I want to mix it up pretty well, but again, this is a distress piece, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And I actually want a little bit more. I want this really thick. So I'm just going to use one of my little mixing spoons here and get out a little bit more of the powder. Sprinkle that in. I want it really, really, I don't want that pudding consistency, which is what the 2 scoops to the 8 ounces gives you. I want mine really kind of chunky. All right, so I've got it pretty thick. You can kind of see the difference between the thickness of this and then the thickness of the actual paint itself. So we're gonna go ahead and also stir up the driftwood. We're gonna apply these at the same time. So, you know, if you wanna keep them absolutely separate, you can let the first color dry, then layer on your second color. I don't care if they're a little blended together in spots, just creating like almost like a third color. That's great with me because I'm looking for a layered, aged look. And like I said, it's a little bit chippy in places. It almost looks a little bit pockmarked in places. You can kind of see over here. This bottom area also has the dirt and the wax already on it. So see, I love this gray. It's coming out really, really chippy. You want to stir it up well too, so you don't have any of the little white grains. So for me, that's not a big deal because once I sand this down, I don't want it on my glass though. But this is my paint shirt. It's fine to wipe it on my hands on there. So we've got these mixed up. And what I'm doing is I'm going to randomly apply this. I'm going to be using our premium chip brush. And I'm going to go ahead and dab it on in quite a few places. So you can kind of see here. Since I can't see that bottom, I'm not too worried about it. But as I'm dabbing, it's creating that nice texture. Where I'm brushing it on, it's just creating like a lot of brush strokes, which I also want on this piece. I'm not putting this blue everywhere, just in a few spots here and there. Kind of in the corners, because this is my darker color. So maybe a little bit on the edges. Let's get a little bit over here. And I'm just going to use whatever I have left on my plate. I'll do these sides and everything later since those are areas that you're not really able to see. But I just want to get that texture buildup. You can see where it's like really, this will create a nice pockmarked area. Let's see. Let's go ahead and create just some brush strokes along there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use the same brush. You can switch brushes. I'm gonna use the same brush and I'm gonna start going over the areas where I didn't put that blue with the driftwood. In some areas I might do both. But I'm dabbing, brushing. I don't need perfect coverage because I am gonna distress this. So it really doesn't make a huge difference there. Just want to make sure I get something for everywhere for the most part. And I'm kind of trying to go where my blue isn't. Let's go ahead. So I will have to clean this glass again too, by the way. I mainly taped it off because I didn't want to have to clean off really well around the edges and everything. But I don't mind, like right there, I dabbed that paint on there. I don't mind just washing that off. That's an easy cleanup. So like I said, this is a great technique, or something great to create with this is like picture frames. Let's get that spot under here. It's great for your transfer scraps. Because, you know, these transfers go a long ways. There we go. All right, so that's the first step in creating this look. We're going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I'm going to show you the wax and the Dixie dirt, and we'll move on to, at this point, then we'll move on to the transfers and applying those. All right, so for the Dixie dirt and the wax, we'll come back and do another layer of fluff on here, but we just want to let that dry. Oh, yes, I know. So this is, well, I'll get to it in a minute. This is AJ's transfer. I think it's perfect for this window. All right, so the next step is, here we go over here. We're going to be using some Grunge Gray Wax. And we're also going to be using some Earth Dixie dirt. And I'll kind of show you a close-up of that in just a second here. But I'm going to go ahead and set this plate out. And I'm going to put my Dixie dirt on there. This is kind of messy with the Dixie dirt. And this is earth color. So it has a little bit of a gray undertone, but it is more brown. And then, of course, the Grunge Gray Wax. That's just the gray wax. Hey, Jerry, it was pretty good. How about yours? All right, so for the wax, I'm actually just using a natural bristle art brush. It's a flat one, so it's going to be great. The reason I'm doing this, by the way, and once I applied the fluff, I put a clear coat of satin on here and distressed it down with my sander. So this is going to be workable. It's not going to sink right into the paint, but I need the wax for the Dixie dirt to stick. So that's one reason I'm applying with this brush, because I want to be very intentional about where I put it. And I want to line out. So first I'm going to start by just lining out around the glass pieces. I want the dirt in there because that's where you would naturally see, you know, dust and dirt accumulate, is in those areas. In the corners, you would typically see a buildup too. So we're just gonna, and this is heavy. I'm putting this on heavy. We're just gonna put some accumulation all in the corners here. So I also have, and I think you can see it here, I've got several different indents. I'm going to kind of highlight those indents, not totally, but just a little bit here and there. Because you would also see, you know, dirt and dust settle in those spots as well. So now that I've got that kind of lined out, let's do part of the top as well. So let's say I want a little bit of the Dixie dirt up here. I'm kind of painting with the wax, by the way. So I'm putting it on, and I'm lightening my touch, so just a little less is applied. Let's put some along where those distress marks are. And it'd be nice if we had some where it's so textured right in this area. It'll sit nicely in there. So once I have this on, I'm just going to use another artist brush. Dixie Belle actually has art brushes out now that are synthetic. So, unfortunately, I didn't think to get one of those out, but I'm going to use this to apply my Dixie dirt. So I'm just going to put a little bit of dirt. I think you can see that. I don't want to go, well, here. I've got some dirt on here, and I'm just going to start pounding it into those waxed areas. You know, it's like dirt, but I think this gives you, you know, I feel like Dixie dirt is the most authentic way to age something. In my opinion, it looks most authentic. But even myself, it's such an underused product. But all I'm doing, it's like dust. So it's going everywhere, but it's going to stick. You'll see once we clean it off. It's actually going to stick into the places that we have the wax. And we're going to wipe that wax back a little bit too. And I might have missed some places with the dirt, but the places that I missed with the dirt, the wax is still going to stay there, and it's going to age it some as well. So now that I put that dirt on here, I'm going to, because I have a satin clear coat, I'm going to be able to work this a little bit. So I've got just a lint-free white cloth here. Well, it can be any color, but, and I'm going to start rubbing this in. And just kind of moving it around, making this dirt stick in those waxed areas. And I'm going heavy on this. I want this to look aged. I want it to look like you're kind of looking out of a window at these beautiful, bright flowers. And I'm just, you know, I'm ready for spring. I know winter just got started, but it doesn't matter. So now I'm just rubbing a little bit more to pull back some of this wax. I could also pull back with some clear. And I did not get my clear out, but I have it right over here. I think I would like to go ahead maybe, and pull a little bit back up here. But actually I'm rubbing it, so I'm lightening up where that gray is. I actually went over a little bit past, but so now I've got that nice gray dirt and everything sitting down here in all the grooves. And I'll try to show you guys a close-up of that, especially once we finish these transfers down here. So that's it. That's kind of how I got to this last step. So this is still a little wet. It takes a little bit longer to dry. I mean, in a normal situation, I would wait at least an hour or two. But I've got my heat gun. It'll be dry enough for us to just do a quick layer. So you can see how that goes on. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and apply transfers to glass. And tonight we're going to be using the Wildflowers and Butterflies by AJ's Vintage Design. And this is a beautiful, beautiful transfer. And I think the design of it, you can see kind of how it goes up and around. The design of it is perfect for one of these window pieces. So the transfers come in 4 sheets. And this is, I've already cut mine up, obviously, but this is one full sheet. This is where we're going to do on these panes over here and on the top panes. I haven't cut that one up yet, but you can see how vibrant it is. And the transfers come with just some instructions, tips and tricks on how to use them. And then you have the application stick, which is just a little wooden stick here. So when you put these transfers on furniture, it's really easy to place them. And a lot of times, if it's not exactly where you want it, you can pull it up and move it. But transfers stick to glass like that. Once it touches, it is, I don't think I've ever had a situation where I've been able to get it back off. I've done this a lot. And there's ways to manipulate it a little bit, but it doesn't pull back off. So you want to be very careful when you're laying them on glass or a mirror, either one, to make sure you have them where you want them before you flatten them out. So that's why I want to kind of go across here and do all of these sections, because we're also going to be layering some transfers. So when you layer transfers, you want to put on your bottom section first, or what's in the background first. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and lay this piece right here first. This is just a small piece that I cut out. It was an extra flower. You have one major design in this transfer, as well as a lot of little flowers, butterflies, bees, and stuff like that. So the transfer comes, you can cut it out, and it comes in two little separate sheets. This is just the backing that protects it. When you store it, you want to be really careful to make sure that backing is on here and completely lined up, because if even you touch the bottom of this with your finger or something like that, it can ruin the transfer. So when you get ready to put it on, you're going to peel off that back so that you just have the transfer and your plastic piece. Now when you're placing it on glass, you have to be really careful. So what I normally try to do with these windows is take my plastic, I want to hold it off the piece, and I line it up to where I want it to line up on the bottom. Once I do that, I'm just going to press it down there, and then I'm going to use my hand to kind of make sure that it flattens out so I don't have any wrinkles or anything else, and run it right over. So I haven't really pressed down on this or anything, but you can see when I go to pull it off, the plastic piece, I cannot. The transfer is pulling away from the plastic. So there's very little rubbing required, which is nice. That's the positive. It's going to come off very quickly for me. I'm just going to go ahead and do an overall rub on it. And you can hear it a little bit just releasing. But I'm just going to rub over the whole thing. And then usually, you can pull it right off. I don't see how it just releases. I'm still doing it slowly because I want to make sure that it's stuck. But you don't have to do as much rubbing like you do on furniture to make it release. I'm having a little trouble just because I'm upside down, but hopefully I tried to do it at this angle so you guys could get a good view of it. So I'm just going to start pulling up. Like I said, it sticks to glass and mirrors immediately. I'm going to get down in this corner just to make sure that I got that. But see how easy that pulls off? If you've seen any of the furniture transfer videos, I have several of them. It takes much longer. And I'm going to bring you guys in for a close-up so you can see this whole thing as well. So still, even though it's on glass, you're going to want to burnish it down. And at first you want to be a little careful because you don't want to take any edges off that are not stuck down. And this is just our finishing pad that I'm using. You can use a finishing pad. You can use your finger to rub it down. I don't really like to do that because, you're leaving fingerprints on glass. But this finishing pad also rubs those fingerprints off the glass. So it acts as a little bit of a cleaner too. So that's it. We've got the first transfer on. Yeah, I know it's super easy. And they're beautiful once you put them on a wall or against a backdrop. So now we're going to go ahead and go with this big section, and that's a little more tricky because, like I said, it sticks to the glass immediately. And I did this with a tack cloth, and I see I have a little piece of something on here. You want to make sure your window is nice and clean. I cleaned this whole thing with White Lightning, rinsed it with water, Made sure all of that residue is off before I lay a transfer on the mirror. So on a mirror too, you don't protect the transfers. It's about the only surface you don't protect them on. Mirror or glass. So this, you want to be, like I said, a little more careful on. So this piece is going to fit my entire pane. So you cut these, but you know, I measure, I cut them. I'm not always exact. The transfers, you can see kind of, well, maybe, let me see. Yeah, you can see kind of how they bubble, you know, a little bit or whatever. So your measurements aren't always exact, but the angle that you generally look at something like this, it's kind of, you're looking up because it's hanging on a wall. So I actually try to line it up to this top piece here because that's what you would see in line of sight. So even if my measurement is a tiny bit off, it's not noticeable on these. That's just kind of a little tip. The other thing is you can paint on them. So if you make a really bad error or something like that, you can paint over it and kind of camouflage it a little bit. In that case, I do put a dab of satin on it so that the paint doesn't look so flat and it kind of matches the rest of the transfer. So I'm pulling this off. I'm being very careful of how I touch it because, again, see how it sticks to your finger? I can damage it a little bit. So that makes it very challenging when you're trying to lay it because when you're doing a whole section, you've cut it right up to the edge. So when I lay this down, I'm actually going to line it with the top. I try to bubble it out. And then I try to line up the edges without setting it down. This one's going to be a little bit tricky. There we go. So once I get it lined up at the top there, I'm going to push it down and I'm going to let that drop and I'm going to roll it, my hand down towards the bottom. So this one is actually just a tiny, tiny bit long, and I don't have it in here perfect. It won't be noticeable though when I get it done. I'll bring you guys in and show you more closely. But from the angle, you won't even see this when the whole design is on here. Because I've got just maybe like not even a 1/16 of an inch probably that I'm off just a tiny bit on the bottom corner. But that's okay. So I'm rubbing it down. I want to make sure that there's no air underneath of it. I know it's stuck on well. And we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to rub the overall transfer down. So another little tip. And actually I don't have one big enough. Let me see if I can find. So I just took off a clear piece here a minute ago. I'm not sure what I did with it. Well, I'll show you in a second. I'll actually use this. We're just going to pretend like it's clear. So I'm going to go ahead and rub this on here just to make sure there's no bubbles, no air underneath any part of the transfer. Just make sure that's nice and smooth. So I don't really need to do this on here because I'm working with a glass piece. Oh my gosh, you guys. I put this in the wrong section. See what I mean when I said when I started and we're going to pray that nothing horrible happens? This was my piece that went over here. This was actually my piece for this section. So, how do I want to do this? So what I'm actually going to do, that's okay. There's always a way that we can do this. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this. We're going to lay this section over here, and I'm just going to rework the design so I can bring it all together. Yeah, I'm so kind of, it'll still be okay. Oh, hey, Wanda, yes, this is the perfect project here. Just don't do what I just did. And I usually don't work when I'm this tired or do a drive like that, because I will generally make a mistake like this. But that's okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start pulling it off. If I thought I could have pulled it off, I would have. So this is another thing here. It's a little bit tricky to get these edges up when you work with a piece like this. So I normally try to take another section here and kind of go where I don't have the design and kind of pull up to get it to release a little bit. So I need to rub one little spot right there. And we're just going to keep going under that plastic until I get enough to get a finger hold. And we're almost there. Usually I try to take it over to a corner. Let's see here. So I've almost got it all the way up to the corner. I'm just using this. There we go. So now I can grab a hold of this little section and pull it out. And see, I mean, you know, if this was furniture, you would rub while you released like this. But for the most part, this glass sticks really well. Sometimes you have to do a little bit extra. So I just dropped my section. But you can always just use a piece to bring it up. So I want that corner to release over there. And it's kind of at an odd angle because the corner of that pane has like a little nodule up there. So I just want to get this piece of plastic around that. There we go. And we're just going to keep pulling off. Anywhere that I see it's is not releasing as smoothly, I'm just rubbing down a bit. And I mean, if you have used these, how many of you guys have used these transfers on glass versus furniture? It makes such a big difference in the release. So my design is going to be a little bit different than I originally anticipated, but that's okay. So I'm doing this with my finger first just because there's a few sections I want to make sure that I don't pull anything off and that they're nice and secure. And then we're going to go ahead and go back with the finishing pad. And I like to cut these in half too. It makes them a little bit easier to work with. We're just going to burnish that down. Make sure that it's stuck really well. And then I'm going to kind of decide. So this one was supposed to go over here. This is the edge of this piece. So let's see. I still want my design to kind of round out this way. So I think, well, no, because I need that to come down. So I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and measure from here to here, and I'm going to go ahead and put this over this complete section and just layer this one in the background. So I wasn't really planning on doing any cutting, but that's okay. Sometimes you have to, when you make a mistake, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You just have to rework it a little bit, and you can always work stuff in. So for this, actually, I don't know that I have my measuring tape out because I wasn't planning this. And, I want to say this one was 5.5. It was, oh, I can't remember if it was 5 1/8 or 5.5. Let me see if I can find this right quick. If not, well, actually, this is dry enough. Let's go ahead and put this on. And then, oh, I found my measuring tape. Never mind. We'll put that on in a second. Let's finish this up because then you'll be able to see how to line these up too, which is a little more difficult on glass. Oh, hey, Amy. Yes, I love, love, love your transfer. I kind of messed it up a little bit on my design, but that's okay. These transfers are super versatile. All right, so how I measure this, by the way, to get that cut in the first place, was I like to use this as opposed to a regular tape measure. And then I just run it all the way across because I feel like I get a more accurate measurement. So yes, it was 5 1/8 is what I need to cut this section right here to. So let me up you guys a little bit and you'll be able to see what I'm doing back here. So I've got, I try not to use scissors. I'm not very good at cutting straight. So I have one of these little cutters here. And let's see. So to make sure I don't mess this up, let me not talk for a minute. So I want to go 5 1/8 from this side. So I'm just going to line this up, make sure that I get it straight. Just a minute here. Like I said, it's hard to be perfect with the transfers simply because they do kind of bubble up, like I said, on the back a little bit. So you want to, you just do as well as you can there. So now we are going to line this up. And it looks like I'm actually a little bit, I need to shave just a tiny bit off here. Let me see if so it was 5 1/8, which really should put me perfect, but that's going to overlap me a bit, and I don't like the way that lines up. So let's see. Let me just double check my measurement because I'm kind of going off part of what I did yesterday. I don't think this one is, yeah. So this one is actually 5 1/4. So I need to get this down to just 5. Let me make sure I'm cutting off the right end. Line that up. And just to give you an idea, this is also how I picked out the colors for this window. These butterflies in here and a couple of the flowers, they have a nice blue-gray in them. So I just wanted to bring that out in the frame and kind of complement those smaller pieces. So I'm going to line this up with this. And sometimes that's a little bit tricky, especially when you're working with glass because it instantly sticks. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off. And one other thing here. When you look at these transfers, you will see a little, it's kind of like a little halo on the edge there. I think you can, I'm not sure if you can kind of see it or not. So when you're lining them up together, I like to cut that off. So I'm lining image to image. There's no clear spot in between. So again, when I do something like this to line it up, especially with glass, I only want to allow that part to touch, the part I'm lining up. Well, I'm a little bit off, but that's okay because I can touch that up, like I said, with paint. And I kind of hate this because I covered up that one butterfly, but that's okay. So I'm just going to lay this down, make sure I don't have any wrinkles, make sure everything is consistent. And here we go. We're just going to go ahead and rub it down. And I am rubbing towards here because if I do have a wrinkle, I want it to come out over here. But I think I'm pretty well lined up. Just want to make sure I hit every spot. I'm going to be a little bit more careful when I'm going over. But you can see here, I'm going over the section that's already done. And it's on here pretty solid. Even when I'm rubbing over it with this again directly onto the transfer without that plastic in the middle. All right, so I think I should be able to start releasing it now. So I'm just gonna take one of these little scraps, and I'm kind of running out of time here, so let me see if I can go ahead and get it released so you can see it. And come back to this white paint. So actually, I think I'm going to try to release it over here. It might be a little bit easier. So I'm just sticking this into a spot that doesn't have anything. Well, what I really need is some tweezers because I'd be able to get this. This is the hard part when you're doing something like this. Let's see, might be able to pull it out with this little plastic piece. Sometimes you can bubble them up. Let's see if I can go this way. I think I got it. Well, you know, I like to line it up exactly with these window frames, but this is the hard part. And normally I keep some tweezers, but like I said, I'm not too prepared today. I was with the traffic coming back, I ended up in the car for about 11 hours. So I am not too together today with my supplies. Let's see, actually maybe an X-Acto knife would work for this. Also don't have any of those in here with me. Oh, here we go, here we go. I want to make sure I don't let that go. All right, so we're just going to make sure that that is stuck down. Trying to pull this out of the corner. I'm trying to get, I've got it right up against the edge here, so I'm trying to make sure where I couldn't get in there to rub because that piece was too thick. I'm just using the back of my spoon. So there we go. Just making sure that none of the transfer pulls up when you're taking this off. And I did have a little spot in that corner that didn't stick, so I just lay that back down. You can rub that spot back on. It's mainly just over here along this edge. I actually ended up getting the plastic underneath between the wood and the glass portion. So I'm actually having to use something a little bit thinner. A lot of times I use like an old credit or debit card to do this, just because you can really get in there. So I'm actually going to pull out over onto this side where I've got that, where I've got it in so tight. Got it stuck back down there. So that's just a little tricky getting it out of there. Normally I don't actually have that space to deal with, but there we go. So now we're just going to go ahead and burnish that down. I want to be kind of quick with this. I'm using the finishing pad. You can use this right here if you don't have a finishing pad. You can go over it and burnish it that way as well. If you haven't used your sanding sponge, the spongy side of it, sometimes I use that to burnish as well initially. Because it's just nice and smooth. So you guys can kind of see how that turned out. You can see I'm not super excited about the butterfly that I put another butterfly over because I put the design in the wrong spot, but you can see how easy it is to layer those in as well. And I'll just pop this up so you can kind of see what that looks like. You can see my line a little bit up here. So yeah, right there. So all I have to do is take a little bit of paint. I can put a little bit, just, I mean, a tiny amount, very small art brush, just kind of put that in. And then I usually put a little satin over it just so it has the same sheen as the transfer. But I do have just enough time too that we can put the second coat on here. That spot's really kind of thick and a little bit wet, but it'll be fine. So I'm actually going to be using Fluff. Fluff was my next layer. And I may end up reworking this whole section here. I'm not really sure. I really wanted the design like I had it to begin with. I'm not sure what I'll do, but I'll definitely post the final pictures with that. I may end up just running this out and see how it looks. But for this layer, all I'm doing is dry brushing, putting a little bit heavier in some places. I've already got to clean that pane. But I'm just dry brushing. So I've got the fluff, I'm putting it on my brush, but then I'm wiping some off. And we're just going through here. In some places I want it thicker, in some places I just want it to go over some of that texture that I created. I really don't want to get that dirt in it. But again, this is a piece that is intended to look old and worn, so I'm not really concerned. I'm going to run my sander over it with a 220 grit sandpaper. And it is going to distress in all kinds of different ways. I'm going different ways with my brush as well. And I'm sure you can hear it. I'm doing it thicker in some places. Like I said, I'll be cleaning these panes off again and do that bottom section. When I did the protectant for the satin too, in some places I stippled it on, and in other places I didn't get the best coverage, and that was intentional because of that aged effect. So again, just going over this in different ways. It's very, very random. But it's mainly just all a dry brush. I'm using these natural bristle brushes as well because I want texture. I do not want this you know, that synthetic brush, the paint is self-leveling, and the synthetic brush will give you that nice smooth paint job, and that's not what I want. So that's why I'm choosing these natural bristle premium chip brushes. And I'm just going back over some places and dabbing. I actually look like I have paint drips right here. Oh, you can't see that. Let me drop you down. So I actually look like I have some paint drips right there, and I'm happy with that. Like right here, right over here, got a whole lot of chunkiness up here. So that's it. I think I've hit every place. And when I run the sander over this, it is actually going to, it's going to take, in some places, it'll take off everything down to the wood. In some places, it'll just take this fluff off, and it'll leave those raised Driftwood and Savannah Mist colors underneath to give it that chippy look. And I'll actually bring you down here for a close-up so you can kind of see. Let's see where this transfer is. But looking at the frame, you can also see where that Dixie dirt and that grunge gray glaze is really accentuating it and really aging it out. Oops, you kind of dropped down a little far there. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight and my mishaps. If I did miss any questions, I will definitely go on after the live and look at those. Let me raise you up, sorry. After the live and look at any questions. But hopefully you were able to get something out of this. And had I put my transfers on correctly, it would look much prettier than it does right now. But what I'll probably do is I'll probably end up using the whole transfer, which I wouldn't normally have, even on this window. And I'll probably end up layering them in. And I'll line up these top sections so you'll see the top of these flowers coming up. And I'll post a final picture to my page probably closer to the end of this week. I've got quite a few projects going right now. So I would say, yeah, probably about the end of the week. So you can see how it turned out. But thanks again, you guys. Please share this video if you know anybody who needs it. Like and follow me on Facebook. And I'm so glad everybody had a wonderful Christmas, and you guys take care. Bye-bye.